Hi, and welcome to this webinar today. We're still waiting for someone to join, so we'll just give people a couple of minutes before we start. Well, welcome everyone who's here so far. Can everybody hear me? Okay, and see me? There should be a chat function that's open for everyone, so you can feel free to use that as we go. Yes, thank you, anonymous attendee. Okay, so it's 1 minute past. I think we'll just begin. So welcome. My name is Anders. I work at Profitbase as the product manager for Power BI Visuals. Today, I'm going to show you conditional formatting in Power BI using the Financial Reporting Matrix. I don't have any slides for you today. I'm just going to go straight to Power BI and show you some practical tips on how you can use it. And the topic conditional formatting is because I've had a lot of questions on email, on YouTube, on GitHub, and multiple channels regarding conditional formatting and small tweaks you can do to achieve the result you want. So I just wanted to share this with everyone, and it's going to be recorded and uploaded to YouTube afterwards. So if you want to revisit it later, you can go to our YouTube channel and visit everything there. After the webinar is done, I'm going to share all my files, links to the resources and documentation after, so you can play around with it yourself and try. Please come with questions please send in your questions as we go. And please note that only the Q&A section is kept after the webinar. So if we can't answer you live, I have to check things up afterwards. It would be very good if you could answer the question, if you could ask the question in the Q&A section, because the chat is deleted straight after this stream goes offline due to GDPR. So I think that's everything. And then I'm going to start by just sharing my screen. So, and yeah, do you see my screen now? Chat is disabled. Okay, so yeah, please just use the Q&A then. That would be perfect. And thank you for confirming that you're seeing my screen. I got a couple of report pages that I'm going to go through. And as you can see, I've got some duplicates. So the first one is columns. It has to do with column formatting. Then we have a row level formatting. We have a specific single cell formatting or cells. We have some icon formatting. And finally, is a way to add some messages to different report lines. And what you see now is kind of what I want to, the result I want to get to, where you have these columns colored with background color. And if I go to the demo page, it's the same layout, basically, but I have, let's see here. I'm going to now start adding in the formatting. So first step to start adding formatting is going to these dots, more options, and edit. And then you right click the columns you want to do something with. So if I click on my first header called actuals, I got two different options. I can add conditional formatting to this column. And if I select this one, you see I get a new step, conditional formatting on actuals. And this is going to be applied to every column that's named actual So it's actuals for 2019 and the same column for 2020. Every column is going to be affected as long as it's part of the actual measure. If I select the other one, add column conditional formatting, it's specifically only applied to the single column that I selected. So now it's only this one and not the repeating measures that you see after, or the columns you see after. If you want to highlight these in a background color, you can right-click this one, add conditional formatting, and let's say the value is unimportant because you don't care about the value, you just want the background color on everything. And then you pick a style that you want to apply in the right corner. So let's pick custom 4. And custom 4 has been defined in my format pane down here under styles, custom 4, to have a background color that's gray. So on this, you can select different colors you want to apply to different styles, different columns. And you can do the same with the next one and say you just want the background color, so the value is not important, and add this one, and so on. And you can do the same thing if you want it to be conditional on the value itself. You can of course use this as well. So greater than, equal to, less than, and so on. Pretty normal from conditional formatting. If I select this one, you can see it's highlighted now every positive value in my variance column. So the main thing to note here is that this one applies to the whole measure. So every instance of the column from every measure, while the next one is specifically for the one column you're selecting. Yeah. If my picture of me is in the way of the report, you can drag it and drop it somewhere else or remove it yourself. So just if I'm in the way, just move me wherever you want. The next part has to do with row levels, because some have asked me if there's a way to highlight certain rows, either based on a value or just based on which level it's on. So in this one, I've added a condition saying I want to highlight everything, no matter which measure it is, no matter what the value is, but I just want to highlight everything that's on the lowest level. So in this case, my lowest level is the accounts itself. That's my most detailed data. And here I get this highlighting everything that's kind of at the bottom of my report. And the way to do that is to go to edit mode. And in this top left corner, you see right click to display menu. And here there's an option to update all row styles. And now it's applying a style to everything. So let's see if we can set this color to orange. And now it's everything. And if you want to narrow this down, you could use specific values. So you can say, I only want to highlight these where actuals is greater than 0. Or you could do something like row level and parentheses. And you could set it to a certain level if you use double equal signs. So equal to 0, that's the top level. So now it's not applied anywhere else. If you set it equal to 1, it's only kind of the next level. And if you set it to be greater than 0, then it's everything except the top level, and so on. So depending on how many levels you have, in your rows over here, you start counting 0, 1, 2, 3. So now setting this to row level 3, it applies the highlighting style to everything on that set level. And you can add multiple of these steps. So you can have different colors for different levels. So let's do custom 3, just in a different way. And it doesn't have to be a background color. It could be bold. It could be adding a margin. It could be just a font color. So you have the choice to set which style you want to apply. But for me to show you, it's more visible if I use background colors than anything else, basically. So that's why I'm highlighting that. But if I do this again, level 2. So now everything on that level is now bolded out because that's the style I've added to this. Then I've had questions about single cells. So let's say I want a specific formatting only for one cell and nothing else. And there's a couple of ways to do that. There's a direct way that I'll show you now. Just have to remove the leftover steps, sorry. So if I only want to highlight the operating margin with a background color again, then I can right-click this and I can add a conditional formatting. And I can say, I'm not interested in the value again. I just want this one cell to be highlighted. And the optional condition should be that the row header parentheses, so that's the row header name, should be equal to operating margin. And then as long as this part in quotes is equal to the name, and it's case sensitive as well, so you need to use capital letters where the naming is using capital letters. But as long as you do that, you see it's only applied to this one specific row. And you can also combine that with values, of course. So now greater than 0, it's false here, so nothing happens. Less than 0, and now it's applied. So this is the direct way. You would need to do one of these for each name you want to, each row you want to highlight. But you could also use something like row parentheses dot style equals styles subtotal. And now instead of only targeting a specific row based on its name, it's now targeting rows based on the style you have applied to it. And to show you the styling, if you right-click a row and select update row style, you can apply a style based on this list to that row. So now I've added subtotal to this row just on top of it. And since these steps are now in the wrong order, it's first adding a conditional formatting based on the style, and then I'm applying a new style. But for this to be affected, you need to move it in the right order. And then this should, less than, so let's do an important. So to illustrate that again, first I'm applying the style and the conditional formatting, sorry. Then I added a new style to a new row, and this is not affected because the styling has or conditional formatting has already been applied based on how it was before this step. But if I rearrange them, this gets affected as well. And a good way to see which styles you have applied to different rows is to right-click and add a new column and just call it whatever you want, but style. And in the formula, you write row parentheses dot style. Then you can see in text which style has been applied to which row. And by using these, you can target which rows you want to add the conditional formatting to. So if I do styles KPI instead, you see it's now targeting this row because I have this styles KPI. And if you want the same thing to be applied to more of these, you can right click, update row style, KPI, and then move it in the right order. And now you see it's affecting that row as well. So if you want to target specific rows or specific cells, you can either do that by using this row parentheses dot style and set it equal to the style that's applied to it, or do row header and parentheses equals to, and then target the row name. Not this. Like that. And again, I now applied conditional formatting, so it's applying to every instance of actuals in this visual. If I used this one, column conditional formatting, did the exact same thing. It will only apply to this specific cell and not any other of the actual cells on the same row. Let's see. And then, let's see, let me just check if there's any. I could not find the edit mode while pressing the 3 dots on the table. I just got a question asking where the 3 dots are. Oh, sorry, edit mode. So to find this edit part, you need to first use this visual, and you also need to be in Power BI Desktop, like I am now, or you need to be in Power BI Service, but you need to have the report in edit mode as well. If it's in read view, you won't get this option. Yeah. So make sure you're in edit mode in Power BI Service or in Power BI Desktop like this to get this. Okay. Any specific questions so far? If so, just add them to the Q&A, and I'll try to follow them. The next part has to do with icons, and a lot of people have asked about how you can apply these different icons based on values, and this takes a couple of steps, but it's not that hard. Just it's not straightforward either. So in this, I have added a new column, which is this one, containing all the icons. And I've added a set of conditions that I can start from scratch and say that if this value in the variance percentage column is greater than 0, then you use comma to separate. If that's the case, then I want to use, let's see, I want to use a green circle, and you need to put the icons in quotes. And if not, I want to use this red circle and then close it off. And then that's the easy way to do it. And I need to point out one thing here, because usually you should be able to click the Windows button and the dot on your keyboard to get this and add in whatever you want from this list. But for some reason, if I'm selecting this one, it's kind of deleting itself automatically. So it's not possible to do anything about that directly. So I'm adding a heart and nothing happens. It used to work before, it doesn't work now, but it's going to work in the next version that we're soon releasing. But the workaround for that now is simply to have a sticky note or anything similar where you add the icon you want using this Windows dot part, add in the heart and copy it from here and paste it in. And for some reason that works. Well, the heart didn't work that well, but most icons do work the way they should. So let's do this one. And there you go. So for some reason, it doesn't work directly into this formula bar, but it works if you copy it from somewhere else and paste it in. It's gonna work directly in the next version. But now we have a very simple formula for this. So if this is a negative value, it's red. If it's a positive value, it's green. And that's simple enough. But in this case, we're looking at sales, and my sales are lower than what I planned them. So I have a negative variance. That's a bad thing. But in this case, my payroll was a lot less than I planned. So I spent a lot less, and spending less than planned is typically a good thing based on your bottom line. So in this case, even though the value is negative, this should be a green dot because it's I spent less than I had to. A way to kind of adjust for that is to use some kind of indicator in your data, letting you know that which accounts are sales. So in my data sets, in my data sets, I have accounts. Just going to show that quickly. This is my chart of accounts, and I have a column indicating that this is an income. So for everything that's 0, it's not an income value. And I use that in this visual as a minimum of income. So it's either showing 1 or 0. And you can see that as a column here, but it's been hidden. So for all my sales and other operational income, you see I got a positive value. But for all my costs and expenses, it's 0. And I can use that in this formula to say that if the variance is positive, and use 2 of these and signs, and this is also positive, then use green button, and if not, and then you need to kind of do nested if statements. So to not write all of that, I'll just copy it back in. I can just talk you through it. So in this case, my variance, if it's positive and this column is positive, I want this upward sloping graph icon. If my variance is less than 0 and the income is this income is positive, then I want a negative symbol. So this has to do with my all rows that are defined as income rows. And in the opposite case, if the variance is positive, but it's an expense post like this one, cost of goods is higher than 0, then I want a negative sign for that. And the last case, if the variance is negative and this income indicator is also equal to 0, then it's a good thing. And then I've closed off all these if statements at the end with these parentheses. And this is a pretty simple way to use icons, and it's flexible because you can use the icons you want, and you can also set this up in different ways, so you can add in other conditions to these, and you can specify that you only want to show these on certain rows. So you can either use a row style condition or a row header condition to specify that you only want an icon to show on operating profit, for instance. As I said, I'll send you the file. If you then go into this one and edit, you will be able to see the steps, see the formula, see what's happening, and you can play around with this yourself and test it. Just got some questions. Can you export styles to apply in other reports? You can use a theme template where you can specify all the styles inside one theme. So I'll actually just find that real quick. Quick access, here we go. So this is a theme file, and it has one part for each set of options in the formatting pane for the visual. So if I scroll a bit down, you'll see styles subtotal, styles total, styles subtotal, styles KPI, and so on. Each of these correspond to the parts you see down here. So if you specify in the theming file that for the style subtotal, you want it to be bold, you want the font size to be 8, you want an outline, and you can add a hex code for your color on background or font color. And then if you import that to the visual from view and browse for theme, and then you find your theme file, it's going to apply and color and the settings to all the options that you have defined in your theme template file. And that way you can reuse it across multiple reports. But what I've added in this one cannot be extracted to a theme template and used in another one. But if you start by defining the theme template yourself, you can apply that to multiple reports. In this, which version of the visual have I used during this demo? I have used the latest version in production. So it's version 6.1.6 from AppSource. And I'm on the November edition of Power BI. So Power BI Desktop from November. You do need premium to hide columns, like I've done with this one. I believe you need premium to add columns, and but for most of these, just like this conditional formatting and the cells conditional formatting, that's part of free. But when I'm sending out these files after, I'll send it with the license key that's valid for a week, so you can play around with it without the watermark popping up and try out all the features for that week, at least. Then finally, I'm going to show you a way to do messages. And there's it could work for some cases, but not for all. And just to show you, I have some messages here on a couple of my rows. But if I select a different year, these aren't changing. Like they're static, hard coded into the visual. you need to be a developer or have rights to edit the visual in order to add these. So it's not kind of for the end user. But I had a question in the last webinar asking if this was possible. And this is one way of doing it. And as you can see, I've added a column by right-clicking and adding a column. And then I've used conditions or formulas you've seen earlier today. So if the row header equals sales, then display super interesting stuff. If the row header equals cost of goods, then display very serious issues, and so on. So it's it could be used for reporting in a very static way if this is a screenshot you want to do, but it's not a good way to add dynamic or to add comments to a dynamic report. Because even if I choose the company, the values change, but this is now simply set based on which rows I've referenced in my condition. And if I go back into this and just change one of these to interests income, and if I'm able to write correctly, that works almost well. Oh yeah, it worked. It was just a bit delayed. So now it moved here. I could add in multiple of these and just list the comments wherever I wanted them. So yeah, it's possible, but it's not the most dynamic solution for that. This is what I had about conditional formatting, but I kind of as a treat, I wanted to show you what we have coming up in the next version. So in addition to being able to add icons directly into the visual without having to copy them from somewhere else, we are working on and finalizing now export to Excel feature. This is a premium feature. You need to have a license to be able to use it. Then you'll see download to Excel file as an option in your formatting pane. You can turn this on or off for your to make it available for your end users, and you can choose where you want this icon button to be displayed. So this one, and you need some admin rights in your Power BI tenant to be allowed to download data from a custom visual, and we're going to add information about that to this. When the version is being released, we'll add all the details you need to know to make that possible. But now it's very close to ready. There's a couple of things missing. One is that so I'm just going to minimize this a bit. So one is that you can see I got some levels or a hierarchy on my rows that are collapsed. I got the same on my columns, but if I export this by clicking this one, you get this message saying, do you want to do this? Download. And then I'm going to save it here for example 1. And if I go to that folder, there. So this is just now, and I open that. You can see the hierarchy is in place. It's automatically grouped based on these levels. If I expand sales, you got all the sales accounts indented. You can see you get the background coloring, the bold font. This operating margin right here is formatted as a percentage, and it's coming out in Excel as a percentage as well. So what we're currently missing is outlines. So you see there is no lines, and that's kind of part of the style. That's missing, and also the grouping of columns, because now you see you get what you see, and no way to expand them to see the months that are on the next level of the hierarchy. If I expand 2019 and leave the rest collapsed and do a new export, I'll just call that example 2. And I open that. You see I get 2019 expanded with the months on the next level, but the 2 other years are now collapsed and not possible to open. So we're missing a couple of small things before this feature is ready to be released, but we're very close to getting there. So I hope this is going to be a useful feature for many of you. We get a lot of requests about it. I guess it's the most requested feature we have, actually, or the most requested feature request we get. And I just have another example as well with some more colors and information. And if I expand the same one, it looks pretty good when it comes out in the other end. And all of these bold fonts here are calculations that are done in the visual. That's not part of the data set. So it's a visual calculation that's then translated into data and exported. So hopefully that's going to be interesting for a lot of you to explore. And as I said, this is something that needs a premium license to use. So we're finalizing that in December and hopefully publishing at the end of December. And then it's going to be a couple of weeks before it's available in AppSource. And that's all I have for today. And yeah, one question about when the release is planned. I just answered that, I think. So unless you have any other questions or any feedback, I think I'll leave you to it, and thank you for following me today. Let's see. And yeah, as I said, I will send you the files and documentations and links to this so you can go through everything yourself. If you have any questions, please contact me on GitHub, email, YouTube, and I'll see if I can help you out with whatever question you have. So yeah.